Well, here it is, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, a game many adventure story junkies have been waiting for, and one with the most iconic treasure hunters of all time, spanning over nearly half a century and scooping up a boatload of fans in the process. So needless to say, there's some serious shoes to fill in the storytelling department. Luckily for us, I think they nailed it, not only in the story, but the little details that make Indiana Jones movies so iconic, from camera angles, punchlines, music, and of course a great sense of mystery and puzzle solving. And talk about getting sucked in right out the gate, with a damn near shot-for-shot intro of Indiana Jones Raiders of the Lost Ark. And it was a wild feeling to get dropped into such an iconic scene and have control for yourself. But that's not the only thing that gives off great Indiana Jones vibes. The story feels like a true missing story within the Indiana Jones universe. With an instantly iconic arch-rival Nazi archaeologist named Voss, you know you're in for a treat. On the first encounter within Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, you can feel the tension between Voss and Jones immediately, needing no lengthy backstory of any kind. That's just solid writing and chemistry between the two.
Indiana Jones. Voss.
And with that, a great mystery and power going back thousands of years is at stake. And Jones will do anything to stop Voss, but not without getting a little curious along the way. And with plenty of great action game systems that feel perfectly catered to an Indiana Jones game, 3 massive multi-layered open zones to explore, and 4 additional smaller ones, all made for one super immersive experience. And before we get to all the great things about Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, let's talk about some of the bad things. But there wasn't too much. This is a Day 1 Game Pass game and can be played on PC and Xbox Series X and S. It's announced to be released on PS5, but no date yet. And as some of you might know or heard, if you're playing on PC, having a ray tracing card is actually a requirement. So it's a pretty big bummer for those who haven't gotten around to upgrading to a ray tracing card yet. Obviously on Xbox, it is what it is. They optimized it for the best performance, but I played on PC. And I usually play a PS5, so I still use my PS5 controller. But they actually already have all the buttons mapped and PlayStation symbols showing up within the game, which I was pleasantly surprised about. Now I did only go into this with a 3060 Ti, but it got the job done, and even at 1440p, with minimal issues and a pretty steady 60 FPS after playing around with the settings a bit. And based on my gameplay footage, you guys can be the critic there, but I by no means was playing on max settings, and I thought it looked fantastic. I did, however, encounter a few bugs here and there. From my running being suppressed and feeling like I'm running in quicksand, which surprisingly, there is none in this game, as well as a few floating NPCs. I did have one major issue of a lever being stuck to progress through a zone, but nothing a little restart couldn't rectify. But beyond that, I had myself a pretty smooth experience. And now, it's time for the good stuff. I did not expect this game to go so hard in first person. I love third-person ARPGs, and especially with such an iconic character, I would have loved to watch myself playing as him. But being behind the fist and the whip hits way different now, and I couldn't imagine this game being played any other way. And with plenty of cutscenes and third-person traversing, you get enough to fill that void. But beyond that, the voice acting and portrayal of Indiana Jones by Troy Baker is uncanny. It felt like I was listening to Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones once again. From the muttering and ramblings while trying to piece together clues, or hearing the fear in his voice when he encounters a snake.
The voice of God descended on the earth, voice of God.
All were spot on and incredibly genuine, which made the cutscenes and action sequences feel like another Indiana Jones movie. And it didn't stop at the main story. Some of the side quests had great little stories and a few really wild sequences, like a hallucination that puts Indiana Jones back in his college office and starts blending in with the forest. Pretty wild, man. And speaking of side content, let's get to the bones of this game beyond the main story. One of the best things that Indiana Jones and the Great Circle does so well is blending all of its systems together seamlessly. There truly isn't one piece of side content or system that doesn't have any effect on how you progress in the game. For example, there are 3 types of spendable, let's call them assets, one of which is of course money, which varies between each part of the world you're in, which adds a little nice touch of realism. And with this money you can use to buy different items, from key main story items, like a lighter or a breathing apparatus for longer underwater exploration, or buying maps in each zone, which allow you to track all the discoverable activities within the zone. And the map was surprisingly one of my favorite features of the game. The map works in real time, and you can hold it up as you walk around at the same time, which I loved. And whether you're tracking mysteries, ancient relics, books of knowledge, or medicine bottles, everything is conveniently contained within your journal, and acts like an all-in-one hub that you can reference back to, especially when piecing together clues while trying to solve a puzzle. And there are a ton of puzzles and mysteries, all varying in size quite literally, as well as importance. And Indiana Jones and the Great Circle has some excellent puzzle-solving situations. Whether it's to open a small Nazi vault for some stolen cash and relics, or getting a giant ancient door to open to progress through the story. Each mystery and puzzle felt unique, and some were quite challenging. So if you're a big problem and puzzle solver gamer, you're gonna love all the challenges this game has to offer. And not often were there 2 puzzles similar to each other, which always kept solving one of these exciting and rewarding. Now circling back to the map again, those items I talked about are key to progressing your skills and lifelines. like the medicine bottles, which are used to upgrade your health, and stamina bars by finding and exchanging them with the local medical tents. I really enjoyed this system of upgrading and progressing your character. It felt more meaningful than a traditional leveling experience, and gave the collection system way more value. I got to choose how I wanted to spend those medicine bottles, whether it was more health to take more damage, or increase my stamina for longer fist fights and sprints. And with the third type of point collection system, we have adventure points, which are gained from completing side content, the main story, discovering notes, and even taking pictures. This is your true way to upgrade and gain new abilities, and where those books of knowledge I mentioned earlier come into play. Similar to Fallout 4's perk books, you can find those around the world, but in Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, they are way more abundant, with 53 books to collect, all ranging from simple upgrades like increased ammo capacity, faster climbing speed, and game-changing perks like defense on the last health bar, and the lucky hat that allows you to get back up after getting knocked down, which makes it a great time to talk about combat. I gotta be honest, I was a little bit unsure about combat seeing early gameplay footage before its release. I thought it was gonna be more of an afterthought, and they'd be way more focused on the storytelling and exploration. But to my surprise, it turned out to be a lot more fun. Brawling with your fists in first person feels great, and you can really feel the oomph in every punch. Watching gameplay does not do it justice, you have to pick it up for yourself. And if you play with a controller, you'll use both the bottom triggers to throw hands, and it actually matters which trigger you're hitting to use left or right, especially when you do a perfect parry and can follow up with a counter, but only using the hand that isn't blocking. So when you start flowing in a fist fight, it feels natural and badass, dude. But the fists, of course, are not the only thing we use in combat. Here's where things get really unique. You can grab damn near anything around you as a weapon, but each weapon has its own durability level, and smacking away with it eventually breaks it, and quickly. But it makes for some unexpected chaotic combat. If you rustle up a group of enemies and start stomping ass, you'll be picking up and throwing and breaking weapons left and right. And it's pure chaos, but gives a fantastic realism to combat. Frantically looking for your next object if you're overwhelmed is half the fun, and even with guns, you can't reload them after emptying your magazine, with the exception of Indiana's revolver or a disguise that comes with a gun. And since reloading takes a realistic turn as well, it's super slow, so no way you're reloading during a fight. You're emptying mags and flipping guns over to bash Nazis across the head when it's empty. I had some fights that I placed a bunch of weapons in a room and went to Swab Town, and it was a ton of fun trying to cycle through all the weapons while a wave of Nazis were pouring into my room of death. But realistically, you'll end up sneaking around and using stealth to knock out enemies. You can even pick up bodies and hide them to avoid alerting the others. I started out with a ton of stealth, but then I slowly segued into going in hot towards the end, because getting up close and personal was super fun to me. But I love that the option is there for different playstyles, and with different difficulty settings, you can really make combat and sneaking around a challenge. I played on hard and it felt pretty balanced and offered a good challenge. Also, you'll find fruits, bread, and bandages around that can boost your stamina, defense, and heal you when you're taking a beating or prepping for a big encounter. All in all, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle offered me something pretty wholesome that I haven't felt in the game in a long time. A true adventure game, with great level design offering a fantastic multi-leveled exploration experience, plenty of mystery and puzzles that kept me wanting to discover more, a surprising combat system that made me get creative and even put me on the edge of my seat, and a story that I felt did the Indiana Jones universe justice. I will definitely be coming back if there's a DLC, and I hope we get one, because even after full clearing the game, I'm craving more story to dive into. And I could just be biased, because I love all the Indiana Jones movies. It made me discover my love for mystery and treasure hunting, and beyond that, helped me discover one of my favorite movies of all time, The Goonies. But be the judge for yourself. If you love puzzle solving, mystery, and a great adventure story, do yourself a favor and play this one. I'd highly recommend it. And after you guys play it, make sure you come back and let me know what you think. As always, happy gaming, and I'll see you guys in the next one.